Well, Zimbabwe has experienced a notable increase in inflation in January of 2025, with the ZIG month-on-month inflation rate rising up to as much as 10.5% from 3.7% in December. This indicates a 6.8% points change. Now, the US dollar month-on-month inflation rate was 11.5% in January 2025, gaining 10.9 percentage points on the December rate of about 0.6%. Now, the US dollar year-on-year inflation rate for the month of January 2025 has measured by the all items US dollar consumer price index, the CPI, which was 14.6%. Now let's get to check out this reporter from Eben Mabunda, who unpacks the figures for us.
Statistics came through earlier this morning indicating an increase in terms of the month-on-month inflation in ZIG terms. We do not as yet have the annual inflation statistics till the conclusion of the month of April. And at this particular point, we're seeing that jump there to 10.5% from 3.7% in the prior month. An indication, according to Zimstat, this is reflecting increases in terms of the basic commodities where food inflation is concerned, as well as movements where price of fuel are actually concerned, hence the movements that we are seeing here. Of note is the fact that we have seen the domestic currency sailing stable on both the formal market as well as on the informal market. However, the inflation is now starting to tell a particular story, questioning how real that stability is at the end of the day. And even as we take a look in terms of the inflation statistics in US dollar terms, where it is that it registered 14.6%, and this is year-on-year inflation that we're starting to see manifesting at this particular point. This means that we're seeing price increases not just in the domestic currency, but also in United States dollar terms. And this would be the highest, at least over the past 7-8 months, at least in United States dollar terms. Again, an indication that while the currency may be indicating elements of stability on both the formal as well as on the informal markets, at the end of the day, inflation is telling us that some of the fundamentals are starting to indicate elements of it being shaky at the end of the day. That's, of course, speaking to the macroeconomic environment at this point. We have seen a couple of retailers closing shops, as well as some of them indicating that there are concerns within the macroeconomic space. But this is what the statistics are telling us. And even if we have to get back to the month-on-month inflation from a high of 37.2% in the month of October, we are expecting the monetary policy statement to be issued in the month of February, which should give us an indication in terms of the stance that central bank will be taking in 2025.
Well, we also spoke to our Business Weekly Deputy Editor, Kudzanai Sharara, to unpack these numbers as well.
We didn't expect such high numbers to come through. Remember, when we closed the year, inflation was trending downwards and closing the year at 2.5% year on year. So the 14.6%, I'm sure it must have come as a shock to many economic agencies. We are talking about the US dollar 14.6% inflation. You also look at the ZIG inflation as well, coming up as high. Again, I would say that it came as a surprise to me, because when you look at the stability of the exchange rate that we're witnessing, yes, there was still a premium between the official and the parallel market one, but the parallel market one was actually trending down from about 41% at some point to roughly 36, 37, those numbers. So I think the numbers that came through from Zimstat, really will shock a lot of people. And yeah, so that's my overall comment, that I didn't expect inflation numbers to be this high.
Well, he also spoke on the inflation at the time the ZIG is stabilizing.
It comes down to the exchange rate. Remember, the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe is currently running what they call a tight monetary policy regime, where interest rates is anything above 35%. The reserve ratio is also very high. So that's a tight monetary policy. But as you can see, the high interest rates have failed to control inflation numbers. So it points to one problem, one challenge that is there, that is the exchange rate distortions that is affected in terms of how people price their products. We have seen what has happened with the formal shops, and as they try to survive, they put up prices in both ZiG and US dollars as they try to preserve value. So I think the exchange rate remains the elephant in the room. We already have high interest rates, we already have high statutory reserve ratios, which means that the normal monetary policy instruments that are used to curb inflation have failed. So we have to now look at the exchange rate and see how best it can be fine-tuned. I think if the authorities have tried everything they can, using their own understanding of the situation on the ground. But as you are aware, a lot of economic agencies and industrial players have got a different view of what is causing all this. So maybe, given that I think last week we saw different business member organizations, the BMOs, they had meetings with the Reserve Bank governor where they were making their submissions. Hopefully this time around, the authorities might decide to listen to what would have been submitted by different business organizations to make sure that we have got a stable price and currency.
Well, there's a lot that needs to be done there to make sure that inflation, those inflation figures are going down, not upward. Otherwise, it doesn't look really good. So that.